Welcome to a very special one-off pre-recorded Spearhead Records podcast with me, Mr. Steve BCee, celebrating the release of this album, 20 Years of BCee, 12 brand new tracks and 13 remixes from some of my favourite producers, celebrating 20 years in the game. So last couple of days, I asked you on my Instagram and Facebook if you had any questions about tracks and my back catalogue, favourite tracks, etc, and I thought what we would do for the next hour is delve into some of my back catalogue. I'll try and let you in on some secrets or things you may or may not know already, and we'll have a little flick through and see where we've got to over the last 20 years. I've got a whole list of questions here from you. I'll try and get through as many as possible. If you're looking for a mix or something else, like I always say on the podcast, you're in the wrong place. This is not going to be that. So I thought I'd start off by, this is a little bit embarrassing to be honest, but I thought I'd play you the first ever dub play I cut of one of my own tracks. This is a track called Didgeridoo Groove. I'm not even going to play you the whole thing because it's pretty embarrassing, but I wanted to show you how far we'd come. After many years of faffing about on computers, I had a little attempt at cutting a dub plate before I'd really started making drum and bass. Listen to that. I don't know what I was doing, but it has got some experimental elements. I don't know what that was. Great sample. Little effects. So you should all be thankful that I make better music now. Not even sure I knew stuff was meant to have a bass line, to be honest, but there you go. So there's a little insight into this, which is one of my treasured possessions, original dub plate of my first ever track. I don't know what I've done with the sleeve, and this is going to get confusing, so I'm going to hand this over to Mark in the background to take good care of whilst we look through some other stuff. Going to be jumping about back and forwards through this next hour as well as I go through your questions, and some stuff from the past, some stuff that's more recent. So one of the first tracks I'm going to pull up for you, and you can see all the, I mean, there are records here everywhere. I've released quite a lot of vinyls over the years, so we won't have time to go through them all. But one of the first mentions of a track that's a little bit more obscure and unknown was from Nicholas Camargo, who says Generations was his favourite drum and bass track, one that came up a lot. Generations came up a lot. Back to the Streets came up a lot. Glitterballs came up a lot. We'll address some of the stories behind them in a little while. But he mentions this one, P Money, Everything, the BCee remix. So there was a Blame remix on one side. This came out on Intrinsic. I believe it only ever came out on vinyl, so you can't even get this anywhere. Maybe it's on YouTube, but this was a lot of fun to make. Big up Gerald Wilton, who used to run the label. Several monkey noises I think I sampled for this, and jungle noises, literal jungle. The bass is actually rattling the shelves in here.
She gives me everything. She gives me everything I need. I'm not for you.
Turn my mic on, that'll help. Pretty happy with that for an old tune. P Money, BCee remix. Big up Intrinsic for releasing that one. I'm just going to keep passing these over to you. This is the sleeve for that other one. There you go. Another track that I was really pleased to get to work on was this little 10-inch blue vinyl that we did about 500 of. We said we'd never release this on digital. Actually, if you want this as a digital copy, it is on the Spearhead Records Bandcamp page, but that's the only place you can get the digital from this. It's me and Hybrid Minds remix on one side, Keno and Whiny remix on the other, of a track called By Your Side by Spy. It's got a little bit dusty, if I'm honest with you. But yeah, grab this one, Spearhead Records Bandcamp. The drop on this, really happy with it. Hybrid Minds did all the choppy vocals bits. Big up to those guys as well. I need to start playing this one again. It's the original version of By My Side that came out on my label Spearhead Records. Spy sent it to me, and for about a year and a half, maybe even 2 years, it stayed as a dub plate and we didn't release it. And then I was at an auction one day and Carlos Spy called me and was like, mate, we've got to release this track. So we decided to do it. And the rest is history, really. One of the biggest tunes on the label. Big up to Spy. Keno and Whiny then made a remix that we put on the other side of this. And then me and Hybes did this one. So available, spearheadrecords.bandcamp.com if you want to grab it. I'm only going to give you little bits of these tracks today because there's so many to get through. A lot of mentions of things and stuff that I want to play. So we'll take that sucker down. Right, whilst I'm switching this over, there's not a case for that one I'm going to throw at you. Hey. Somebody else said here about tracks and stuff like and naming and stuff, and a track name that's come up a lot as a favourite is a track from this. This was my first BCee debut sort of solo EP. I say sort of because actually Nick Lomax did quite a lot of production with me on this. I was still pretty rusty at that time. And it's got Generations on it, which obviously like loads of people say that that's their favourite track of mine, which is cool. Lomax's work on the bass line with me there. But this one is one of my favourites. It's a track called Glitter Balls. It's a track that gets a lot of mention still. I don't really want to say what was sampled in some of these because not all the samples were necessarily cleared. So if you know, you know. And if you don't, you won't. But the track name for this comes from myself and Lomax at the time had got quite into Lush bath bombs. I'd had a bath that morning and used the Lush bath bomb. And when I went to save the original file name for this, I just nipped to the toilet, looked down and thought, I seem to have glitter balls. And that is where the name for this track came from. So the vinyls of this have long gone other than my copies, but the artwork idea for this one, if you're as old as me, you'll recognise the TV, the BBC test picture, obviously easily played into a little BC and the BBC bit down there. And the title track, Generations, which I'll swap to whilst I'm talking about this one. If I can find it, here it is. The title track for this, Generations, was my nan had just died at the time, and when she was alive, there was a thing in the paper about her and my family, because she had 5 generations of family, from great granddaughter to great granddaughter to granddaughter to daughter to her. Yeah, all alive at the same time. 5 generations at once doesn't happen very often, but she lived long enough to see it. So that's where the track name for this came from. I did an article about this in Knowledge magazine, or ATM, one of the big drum and bass magazines at the time. And I kind of forgot, I think it was one of the first interviews I'd done, and I forgot that nothing's really off record and you just throw these comments out there. So it had a whole section about how close I was to my nan and how much of an inspiration she was to me and what a great woman she was, and how these 5 generations of people had been alive at the same time. And then the next paragraph was, then he went to the toilet and got a glittery ball bag. So sorry, Nan, to have them two things so close to each other. And loads of people choosing this as their favourite track, so big up to everybody that liked this one the most. BC Generation, still available as a digital copy. Spearheadrecords.bandcamp.com, obviously. So you go, there's a little blast of Generations taken from my debut EP, Generations EP. Let's just throw that one over there somewhere. And also on that EP was the Logistics remix of another track that a few people messaged about. I know that Graphics told me once that this is his favourite tune of mine, and it was produced around the same time as that. The Logistics remix is on the Generations EP, but this is the original. It looks pretty scratched, to be honest. I haven't taken very good care of this one. This is called Consumed. Logistics and U-Tone actually used the same vocal sample in a track called I think it was called Sun Goes Down on their new Logic album, the last one. This says the sun goes down and something about the night at the same time. Both vocals are layered on top of each other. But I had a lot of fun making this one. Again, actually made this one with Nick Lomax at mine. Big up Lomax. If you watch this, give us a shout, Bredders. I haven't listened to some of these for so long. If you've got Spotify and you want to just listen to BCee tunes and check out some of the back catalogue, I've got a playlist called 100% BCee, and all of these tracks, all the ones that are released and on there, are on Spotify, and you can check them out. One thing I really enjoy always doing is these coloured vinyls. Technically, the pressing isn't quite as good as it is on the black ones for some reason, but it's still pretty good. It still sounds all right. And it's nice to listening back to these. I haven't listened to some for so long. So Amit says, too many to mention, but Galactus Jack 100 BCee remix is still one of my favourites. This is one of my newer remixes. So Galactus Jack, big up Ben Jack, is a guy I know from Manchester. So he mainly works in schools and stuff like that for a Christian charity. And he releases music as well and then performs that music as part of his work. And he asked me if I would remix a track. It's called 100. So this is very kind of garage influenced, MJ Cole garage influenced to be specific. Very garagey bass line. But loving the bass on this one. Again, you can grab this now. This was part of the Magic Words EP. It's got Wanderer on it with Charlotte Haining. Big up Charlotte. And Magic Words with Degs. And I'll tell you a Magic Words story next. By Galactus Jack, me on the remix. I'm just going to give you a quick blast of the other side of this track called Magic Words. Oh, that was too slow. So you may have heard this story if you've watched the podcast, but first track I made with Degs just before he signed to hospital, and this bit here. They know that I got love, and they know that I got love, and they know that I got love, and they know that I got love. Don't stop it, the feeling that we're finally home, yeah. Cause I'm holding you down, girl, I've changed my approach. And he very much did change his approach lyrically, because when I first sent him the instrumental for that and he sent the words back, me and my wife Andy were sitting in the kitchen and I just put the vocals on my laptop, and she actually spat her coffee out all over the table, and we had a conversation about, like, I don't know Degs very well, how am I going to tell him, like, I can't use these words, but it used to say this. But they know that I got love, and they know that I got love, and they know that I got love, and they know that I got love. Don't stop it, the feeling that we're finally home, yeah. Let me come land my plane, girl, in your aerodrome. Cause I'm holding you down. Yep. So big up Andy Degs for that. For some reason I didn't go with those lyrics, and we had a little rewrite and came up with the words, I've changed my approach, which was probably for the best, because I'm a married man. I'm 45 now. I can't go around landing my plane in people's aerodromes. It would be unacceptable. This is a remix I did with Lomax of a track by Electra Soul System that originally came out on the Spearhead. It's called Moving in Transit. Again, this is in one of my many playlists. I know this This is still a big favourite of DJ Marky's. Big up Marky, who still plays this sometimes. If he knows I'm at a gig with him, he'll always play it. I don't know if he ever plays it other than that, but I know it's his favourite tune that I've been involved with. And this is taken from the original Mood Swings album, which I think came out, 2008. Along with Muffler Everything, Marky and Bungie, Marky and Bungle, let me tell you. Laos We All, Utah Jazz Split Level, and Cubics. Doug's on that one. So there you go, another absolute classic. Another absolute classic that I made. No, I don't quite mean it like that. I just mean it's old. Electric Soul System, Moving in Transit, BCee and Lomax remix. Right, over to this one. Somebody called Blake Traxler said Heartache. So this track, Spearhead Records number 28.
I need a cure.
Vocals on this are by somebody called Adam Brown, aka Adapt, and written a little bit after both of us had got divorced, not from each other. That's not how we roll, but we been through similar sort of situations, and between us came up with this. And Adam Brown, aka Adapt, has been for the last few years the official and pretty much only MC for Wilkinson. If you've seen Wilkinson live, you will have seen Adapt. So big up Adam. I'll give you a little blast of this one. On the flip side of this is a track called Mr. Bidegan, which was made before I had my dog, which is called Bidegan. A bet between me and Lomax. The first person that gets a dog has to call it Bidegan. He told me to call a child that. I actually called him after I'd named the dog Bidegan, after this bet we'd made, and then he'd completely forgotten. So that was a wasted joke. And now my dog's been stuck with that for 12 years. Kind of suits her though. So here you go. This is a little blast of Heartache, BCee and Adapt.
I live a life that is more than existence, more than a four-letter word of resistance. The distance is more than I'm willing to accept. So hard to ignore all the feeling of reject. I reflect on the past, and it's become so hard because my heart keeps falling so fast. I can't let go because my soul keeps slipping, my mind tripping. I might just lose my grip and fall straight into a place of the unknown. Pain is written on my face and I'm all alone. I gotta fight if I wanna survive and progress. My soul is alive but my life is in a mess. Yes, I found a hope and a remedy. I won't slow on the road that's ahead of me. It's killing me, living in this dark place. I need a cure for my heartache. Heartache, 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 heartache,
I've just remembered as well, like I sent the instrumental of this at the time to Logistics, who really liked it, and I don't know what I've done with the sleeve for that one. Never mind, we'll find that later. Never mind, here it is. And the original track for that, the instrumental, was called Goat Tickler. I think I'd just bought a goat at the time, and as you do, goats and animals a lot in my history for anybody that knows me. Right, the next track that loads of people have mentioned was a track of mine called Back to the Street featuring Philippa Hanna. I really did not expect Back to the Street to be a big tune. It's by far my biggest streaming track on Spotify, but at the time I got a hip hop sample pack. I got that piano and chopped it up. A lot of people think samples Dr. Dre, but actually if you listen to them next to each other, The vibe is the same, dung, 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 but you're going to hear it. I don't need to try and beatbox it. But the actual sample is nothing like that, but the string stabs, everything else, it was kind of an attempt at a kind of West Coast, East Coast, hip-hoppy flavour at the time. And I didn't really think it would suit a vocal, but Philippa was up for writing a track with me at the time, and the only instrumental I had was this kind of hip-hop thing. So I sent it to her just to see if she could come up with something, not really expecting it to work, and that is how Back to the Streets came about. I thought it was a bit of an obscure track at the time and that people wouldn't be that into it. So the first time around, when the Lost and Found album came out, it wasn't even on the vinyl. It was just a kind of CD-only one. So it featured when Spearhead hit 10 years old. This came out, 10 years of Spearhead Records, which was represses, so 6 tracks kind of taken from the back catalogue and 6 brand new ones. And on here, there's another track on here I'm going to play you in a minute, but on here is Back to the Street, Philippa Hanna on it, the first time it had been on vinyl. So it sounds a bit like this if you don't know it. Hang on. Oh. No, it doesn't sound like that. Too fast.
I walk these streets and wash away my tracks. Feel like I could fall right through these paving cracks. Oh, the waters rise, but I won't drown. Just hold my head above the water. For all your sons and daughters, I guess it's time for me to face the facts. Though I could fall right through these paving cracks, so I walk the line, no turning back. So I just keep on treading water for all your sons and daughters. Keep on treading water for all your sons and daughters.
So there you go. That's how Back to the Streets came about. Absolutely did not expect that to be a big tune. In fact, most of my biggest tunes were a surprise to me. It's hard to tell sometimes what ones people are going to like. This one there's another story behind this one. This was a remix that Seba asked me to do of a track he'd made with Robert Manos. And then it didn't get used just because of different projects and not because he didn't like it or anything. And then it sat there for 2 or 3 years, this remix had been made and hadn't been used. So when it came to the 10 Years of Spearhead album, I got in touch with Seba and I said, can I use the Robert Manos remix? And he licensed it to me. And so this is Robert Manos Madness My Remix. Still available on all streaming platforms. This track got a lot of support at the time. Remember hearing a lot of people playing this out and getting very excited about it. Especially one of the added bonuses really was because it didn't come out for about 3 years. Everybody loves playing tracks that aren't released yet. Right, I'm going to move on to this album, Come and Join Us. Quite a few people selecting a couple of tracks off of this as their favourites. And look at the vinyl. Nice white vinyl. Impossible to see without good light where on earth your track is. Hello. This track, taken from the Come and Join Us album, is called Firebox. Still absolutely goes off. Mixed this down with Spy, who helped shape that sick bass line. The artwork painted by my wife Andy, who at the time, she's a very skilled artist and puts herself down all the time. At the time, hadn't done any oil painting before. Nipped down to our local this publishing shop, bought a few oil paints and knocked this up in an afternoon. I told her I wanted to look like one of them old paintings that you might see hanging in a church or a stately home. Looks like I'm wearing a blue robe. It was just a blue Spearhead hoodie that she painted. The original picture of this now hangs up in somebody's house. Somebody who mentioned this track, actually. So this is Firebox, taken from Come and Join Us. I'll let the drop happen. So big shouts to Spy, who programmed that massive bass patch and gave me a heck of a lot of help on this Come and Join Us album.
Are you gonna love me?
And I'm going to flip this one over because there's just several tracks on here people have mentioned, but this one is a collaboration with the legend that is LSB. LSB I got to know because he used to run a night with Kerry, Scheme, Negus in Norwich, and Negus ran a record shop in Norwich called Bounce. Luke and Kerry ran a night called Bounce, and me and Nick wrote a track together. Nick Lomax wrote a track together called Slow Burner and sent it to Luke LSB on AIM, the way that we used to all send tunes to each other, and then went to Bounce that night and LSB played it and I was like, oh, I can't believe it. So obviously ended up working with Luke quite a bit since then. And the vocals for this track, written by Rocky NT, some people call him NTI, but it's actually pronounced NT, or like and T. Rocky NT wrote this vocal on the train on the way to my house for a different track, and then just rolled it out in pretty much one take. But then I went to Luke's for the day to try and come up with a collab, and we thought the vocal might fit what we were working on. So that is how The River Runs Dry came about, and what an absolute vocal this is. One of my favourite tracks, actually. Still enjoy it the odd time I play this one.
Captain offshore, the ship is sinking and I can't swim. Standing in awe, flags are waving. This is it. Tell me, tell the one you love all your sins. Save me from the tide, from within. I'm losing the battle. I hope I'm winning the war.
The River Runs Dry. There's a Tokyo Pros remix of that out as well. I love getting remixes done. One of my favourite things of being the label owner as well as the artist is being able to get artists I love to remix my tracks and kind of get their version of it, which is why there's so many remixes of BCee tracks, because I love it. It's a way to get people involved, and it's just a nice vibe when you get a remix back from somebody. You know, Caliber's remixed my stuff, and Spy and Tokyo Pros, loads of people over the years. It's great. A lot of people mentioning, of course, the title track as well. Come and Join Us. Now, several people said, oh, you've sampled Valley of the Shadows. Now, to me, this sounds nothing like Valley of the Shadows, because I know it was an original patch. When you listen to them next to each other as well, they're nothing like each other. It's kind of probably subconsciously inspired by it. But this big riff Clute did a remix of this, and Tim Reaper has really taken it jungle on the 20 Years of BCee album. Still goes off. And then the second drop is just, I almost don't want to give the secret away, but just played around with the same sound and put it through Ableton's absolute standard arpeggiator. And that was it. And it just came up with this, and I was like, yep. That's the sound. Such a simple track, really. Our sound is proper ravey. So there you go. Come and join us as an album. CD's long gone, vinyl's long gone. Might press it one day. It's also got Morning Star in it with Philippa, I Believe with Frank H. Carter III, and that's a mouthful in it. And Willem on there. Sun Goes Down with St. Louis. Cut Me Loose with Hybes. Summary with Philippa Hannah. Really proud of that album. Went down well. I was going to mention as well Heartache, the one with Adapt. Matrix remixed it. I mean, Matrix remixing one of my tracks at the time was mind-blowing. Has got like a 2.5 minute intro, which is perhaps a bit excessive. Chrissy Chris dubstep version on there, which was at a time when dubstep was going massive. This sucker here, Spearhead Records, #1. BCee and Lomax, Misguided. And this is at a time when I had a label called Rubik Records, and I was thinking of making Spearhead Records a Jump Up label, because Jump Up was big at the time, and then thankfully didn't do that. But this is the B-side of Spearhead Records #1. Here we go. It's so fast as well. That's Nightwalker Lifelines Nightwalker remix. We decided not to go that direction though. We took it this way instead. Stuck more to the A side. Misguided by me and Lomax. Spearhead Records #1. I remember at the time I had a Denon CDJ, and you could like press pause, and it was the first bit, like you can do it on all these Pioneers now, but press pause and it would like wind down slowly as if it was a vinyl. And so me and Nick thought we were so clever when we did this bass noise. Like it's winding up. It was like, oh, I tell you, the feeling of working out how to do that was pretty good. Now, this one was back on Rubik Records, but the first track I made with Lomax, and really few people mentioned this one as their favourite track, and I still really like it. It was the first time I'd really used Reason 2.5 to make a track. This is called Slow Burner. It's about 7 minutes long, so I won't play it all. So there you go, that's Slow Burner by me and Nick out on Rubik Records, really, really old one. I'll give you a quick blast of this because a couple of people mentioned this one as well. This is on a label called Influenza. I think they're still going. Yeah, I think they're still going. Distributed by Triple Vision. Again, this was probably 2008. Yeah, probably 2008, 2009. Track called Out in the Cold. Remember Ray Keith playing this one all the time. I think he put it on a cover CD of ATM. It then came out as well as a CD track on Beat the System. Nice little bass thing on this, I like this. Quite skippy. Anyway, so many flipping tunes. I love it. It's quite I could spend all day going back through them, but I won't. Right, somebody said to me, oh man, I just don't know where to go next. Actually, here we go. A couple more. Let's have a look at this one and then I will tell you another thing. So DJ Marky signed the track of mine called 1 Year On. Me and Lomax again. Made this one in my kitchen in Ibiza. There is a vocal version, but that never came out until ages later. That's not even it. That must be the wrong side. Yes. Full of samples. 1 Year On. This came out on this sucker here. The Master Plan Part 1. Check out my 100% BCee playlist on Spotify. You can listen to them all. So I got to know DJ Marky. How this one ended up getting signed was like he was out in Ibiza playing at Space. I lived there at the time. And I sent him a message on AIM to say, mate, I want to come down. I'm going to come down and see you tonight. Good to say hello. So I said hello to him at Space briefly. That was it. And then the next day he messaged me and he said, I'm at Carl Cox's house. I'm really bored because Carl's had a heart attack recently and he's trying to chill out and not do anything. You'll never find it. It's in the middle of nowhere. But if you could, do you want to pick me up and we'll do something? So I just casually went and picked Marky up from Carl Cox's villa. And then we hung out for the day. A long time ago, when I still only had a couple of tunes out, it was very exciting. Big up Marky for then signing and releasing this on his Master Plan album on his label Inner Ground, which was very, very cool. So there you go. That one, again, you can listen to now. Now, somebody messaged me and said, and this is something I've recently kind of talked about, but until then hadn't really mentioned very much about, and that is that over the years there's been a bit of a theme to how I've named my tracks. So when I was growing up, the first ever live gig I went to was at a place called The Fridge in Brixton. I was about 14 years old. That place is now called Electric Brixton, and it was to see a Christian rock band called Petra. My dad had really got me into at the time. Recently, a friend of mine called Gareth gave me a load of their Petra vinyls. So big up Petra, big up Gareth Newbury. This is one of those, and this is called Beat the System. You may notice that I've also had an album called Beat the System. And over the years, I have subtly tried to use as many track titles as I possibly can from Petra's back catalogue to name my tracks, just because why not? So just on this Beat the System album, we've got Beat the System, Computer Brains, Speak to the Sky. Here's another one of their albums. This has got, let's see, I don't think I've used any of those ones yet. So there's some for the future. Here's another Petra album. This has got on it Angel of Light, one I've used. Chameleon, one I've used. Angel of Light, a track like a lot of people mentioned. It was the first track I worked on with New Tone. And that Angel of Light track's on this, North Point. Check that one out. Big up Ceremonium for talking about that. This track, this album, Petra, Captured in Time. Another track that got mentioned a lot, Captured in Time. Oh, yeah, this has got on it. Some I've already mentioned. This one, This Means War. What's on this one that I might use? Dead Reckoning, All the King's Horses. Rose-coloured stained glass windows with me and Blue Martin. So there you go. I have really, really rinsed the Petra back catalogue names. And about a year or so back, somebody got in touch with me and said, it was like only the third person ever to notice this. This is the first time I think like I've really talked about this. And said, oh, you've named loads of your tracks after the band Petra. And I was like, oh, have you heard of them? And he said, my dad was in the band. Shush, Siri. And has heard loads of your tracks and thinks it's really cool that you've used the name. So big up the Petra Massive. I'm going to draw this podcast to a close soon, but before I do, I want to have a blast of a couple of other bits, and I'll just quickly flick through loads because there's so much more music I could have looked at. BCee and Blade Runner, Fatal Attraction, and Black Hole. Had a lot of fun making these. These came out originally on New Directions. Had a lot of fun making these with Devon Gray, aka Blade Runner, over in his studio in Norwich. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun to make. Oh my days, I've just spotted a whole nother bag of vinyls here that I'd forgotten about. So I'm just going to flick through a load. And like I said, all of these are on the 100% BCee playlist on Spotify that you can just get and follow. Please do go out and stream or buy the 20 Years of BCee album as well this time next year. It will eventually be in a box set like this. Unfortunately, because of the current situation, the box set has been delayed until March. They're all going to have sold, I think, before it gets delivered. So if you want one, and please, so that I don't just end up with hundreds of them sitting here, do go to spearheadrecords.bandcamp.com and pre-order a box set. But I mean, this Spearhead 100 has got my refix of Back to the Streets on it, Hand on My Heart, which was a lot of fun to make. We've got this BCee and Blade Runner thing that I'm going to take off the decks. We've got a track called Changing Faces that came out on Focus. Look, there's an artist called Changing Faces, big up Oliver, who actually named himself after this track, Changing Faces. Featured on the Secrets of Saturn thing. What was on there? I think this was a track called Disciple, which I heavily sampled. Yes, it is. I really want to play you Disciple before I wind through some other bits. You can look it up yourself. It features a Lisa Stansfield vocal, which may or may not have been cleared. One that you can't hear online, so I will give you a blast of this. Silver D, Love and Hate. Me and Lomax on the remix. Totally different style for us. This was a lot of fun. So you go, a bit more of a dubby one. That's called Love and Hate. Me and Lomax on the remix. I've lost the sleeve for it already. I don't know what I did with that. Here it is. Oh man, I feel like getting frantic over here. So let's just have a quick flick through and just see what else we've got here. I'm going to move all of these. I haven't even played Is Anybody Out There. So, North Point album, wicked. Big up Everybody Look Like Surfacing. My favourite track on that's probably Little Birds. Just found that sample and it worked so well and everything just built up so nicely. In fact, Little Birds is probably one of the tracks I've made. Little Bird, I mean, like I look back on and think, yeah, that still sounds pretty flipping cool. Happy with that. We got, look at this. Look at that colour. Sexy. That is typical description featuring David Boomer Caliber remix. I mean, Dom Caliber smashed it on there. Also got Hybrid Minds on the remix of Lost and Found. In the Shadows VIP with Blade Runner. Dexel remix of Hold On. Hybrid Minds Mountain remixes. Put that in there because I did 2 remixes for this. Broken featuring Adapt again and Charlie P. Me on the remix. Been good times. Back to the Streets, New Tone remix, Think Twice, another one that got a lot of mentions, Lost and Found, featuring Rocky again, with In the Shadows with Philippa and Blade Runner. I've written quite a few of Blade Runner actually, which is good fun. Hybrid Minds original album, which features Take It Away with me on it. What's this? Beat the System remixes, Technicolor and Chromatic remix and Metric remix. Thanks for Joining Us remixes. Tokyo Pros remix, Polar and Bryson remix, Clute remix, Galaxy remix, another Spearhead 100. Grow. Chris Blue Martin, Moody Git that he is. I've known him for absolutely years. And this whole Grow EP, he sent me a folder of like 90 sketches that he'd made that were all about a minute long and was like, see if you can do something with those. And they were like his kind of junk pile that he really didn't know what to do with. So I took what basically became the track Grow, put some beats on it, gave it to Charlotte, and it's now outstreamed the rest of his entire catalogue. So that's a pretty good going, and the whole Grow EP really came from that, from Chris's kind of pile of junk. So we're gonna do a follow up to that, I think, because he's got loads more sketches. Whiny on the remix on the 10-inch, some really old ones on Intrinsic. I think these are still in line. Unbreakable and Regulate. Loved making those at the time. That was good fun. Help You, another one I really enjoyed making. Stardust with Spy on his Back to Basics thing. Love Is the Devil remixes. Remix of BCee remix of Blind Soul. Again, one of my favourite ones to remix. Rubik Records remix. I mean, it goes on. I don't want to go on and on and on. I'm just shush, Siri. This Changing Faces on the original. This is allegedly a gold coloured vinyl. Looks a little bit more feces coloured to me than gold. Mate, Aorta Love Hope Future remix. This is a remix me and Lomax made for the guy that's now Galactus Jack, Ben, and his partner in crime that made up Aorta, Simon. Simon really sadly died a few years ago of many brain tumours. But big up Simon, man, you were an absolute flipping legend. And we got to remix one of your tracks, so that was cool. A track called Guilty, the one that samples Peter Griffin when he gets injected with the gay gene on Family Guy. That's not my comment, that's just what the programme does. And shouts Guilty, and that sample is in this track that came out on the legendary Renegade double picture disc. Did a whole album with that lady called Charlotte Haining, Med School Graduation. Why have I got this? Because I actually co-produced and did all the piano bits for Willem's Stereogram. This is a Vanguard project thing which we haven't even touched on, but me and Drew made the title track Playing in the Dark for DRS and Dynamite's album, remix on LSB and DRS's album. Look at my head on there. Absolutely beautiful picture disc. Again, my friend Gareth, if he ever listens to that one, just sends me funny messages to say it's weird watching my head spin around. Beat the System artwork made by my wife Andy is still probably my favourite artwork of any of the tracks. Just everything on there associated with something in the lyrics or me, which is very, very cool. It looks a little bit similar to the Rhea and Colette Warren album, but this was 10 odd years ago, and that's all I'm going to say. Laura and Colette, I see you. Joking, before you get offended. Oh, Friction remixed Is Anybody Out There? Haven't even played Is Anybody Out There. 5 years of Spearhead Records. Getting to remix Johnny L was pretty cool. I mean, yeah, you know, this. I'm going to play that before we end. And Lost and Found, I wanted to play you. First ever release here on... Oh, flippin' heck. I do need to play a couple more. This was a little side project. Boise's Beats came out for a little while. I don't know if you can see that on there. So that, look at that for a logo. The logo was made by Ricky Trick Art. You know what it is. Boise's Beats on Dell's van. And that is a little bootleg series. If you can track one of them down, you'll be doing well. Not all made by me, but something I put together. So this must be online in the playlist, I'd imagine, but this is the first ever release on my first label, Rubik Records, with Doug Cubics back in 2001, the one that started BCee off, really. This is called Life Changes. I'm going to skip it on because, like, long intros back then. So the crazy thing with that is that I just got a friend of mine called Becky Drake to send a vocal through. She just recorded some vocals onto a mini disc with no track or anything, and we built the rest around it. She mainly makes songs for kids stuff now, and my kids have listened to it quite a lot, her and her husband Nick, so big up those guys. This scientific remixing, Can't Say No, absolutely killed it. Listen to this breakdown. I was so happy when that remix came back. It was just so sort of fresh and different at the time. Really, really enjoyed it. So, yeah, I mean, it's been all right, you know. It's been all right. I just want to, you know, shout big thanks to anybody that's ever bought my music, streamed my music, came to a gig or anything else. I started out this journey really trying to make a track and see where it went. And looking back over the last 20 years, I mean, there's still like 2 boxes of records down there. And, yeah, I'm pretty happy. Look, still managing to get to do it for a job, to be honest. Had something on Wild Styles label. Forgot about that. Cali, Tokyo, BCee remix. Adapt. That's one of my favourites. BCee Our Time. So Right. Count the Stars. So, Count the Stars, another one. Count the Stars came about because a friend of mine called Basti lived with a guy who was lead singer of a band called Lingby, and they said, would I remix something? So I remixed Count the Stars, and then the remix, I kind of just used their vocal and took over everything else. So it became like BCee versus Lingby, and then it was really weird to fit that on the artwork, so it became featuring Lingby, but really it was a Lingby song called Count the Stars, who are a German band, and me on the remix. But yeah, it came out really well. Absolutely sick vocals. I was gonna finish by playing Lost and Found, but I can't. Oh yeah, I can remember what album it's on. It's on Lost and Found, funnily enough, and I haven't got a copy here, so I can't do that. But Lost and Found, if you don't know the story, is about a friend of mine called Gerald, who I went to his house one Easter Monday because he hadn't turned up for dinner, and sadly when I went there I found that he had passed away. Gerald had been a heroin addict several years and years earlier, and always used to say he had 7 months of pleasure for 17 years of pain trying to put things right. But he'd got himself in a really good place and was living a really good life and was an absolutely fantastic guy. And then I sat sat down, sent like his story to Rocky Enti, who came back with the words to Lost and Found. Gerald had become a Christian and found a faith, and that through the church had helped him a lot to kind of find a path back to being a really good functioning absolute top banana of a bloke. And so the lyrics for Lost and Found kind of came out of that, really. You touch me, drag your fingertips through my veins. And yeah, so Lost and Found has meant a lot to a lot of people, I think, which is great. And we can't finish with that because it's not here. So let's see if this is out of its packet. Yeah, I'll play this, something off of this to finish instead. This is the track, is the album that came out of lockdown. Probably wouldn't have existed without it because we were never going to write that much stuff. And it did come together. So big up Charlotte Haining and Mike. Oh, that's not the right track. So once again, before I sign off for this very special one-off podcast, thank you again for all your support. Thank you for the support on the podcast. Do go buy the CD. Versions are here. We can ship them now. 20 Years of BCee this time next year. Rodney, We Will Be Millionaires. Pre-order a box set. Stream it online. Put it in your playlists. I'm going to leave you with this. BCee, Charlotte Haining and Tempsa In the Moment. If you've got to the end of this and you're still interested, wicked, give us a shout. If not, you won't know I've said that. So there you go. Vinyl. Love vinyl. I was going to talk about The Great Scorer. Didn't get to that because I realised it didn't ever come out on vinyl. But if you know my track, The Great Scorer, came out this year on Drum and Bass Arena. Features what sounds like a Morgan Freeman sample. And I'll tell you the story of that actually. Is that when my gran passed away, I found a little slip of paper with a quote, and it said, "And when the great scorer comes to write against your name, he'll ask not if you won or lost, but how you played the game." And I'd written this track, became The Great Scorer, and I needed a little vocal sample or something for it. So I actually paid a Morgan Freeman impersonator to read the quote from my gran's card, and that became The Great Scorer. So it's not a sample, it's original vocal to sound like more than Freeman from the insurance adverts. I could go on more, but I won't. Follow me on Insta at Steve BCee. Go and stream the thing. We'll leave you with this one. In the Moment, me, Charlotte Haining, Tempsa. Thank you very much, peeps. I am actually going to say one more thing. I've messed up the camera now, I'm afraid. But and that is about this artwork. This artwork was drawn by Andy, my wife, and then digitised by Finn Johnston. Now, Finn Johnston's wife is very tall. Cat, big up Cat. These figures here have been a big complaint of Andy since Finn digitised it, because what's meant to be Charlotte is as tall as me. On Life as We Knew It, on the picture disc, she's the right size again, but Finn resized the woman, and Andy doesn't want people thinking that her artwork isn't in proportion, because one of the things that winds her up the most in life is Teletubbies, when things keep changing proportion, and we had to watch that when we had young children. So Finn, this is on you, mate. Not all women are as tall as your wife, or as beautiful. Cat, yeah, very beautiful woman. Now I sound like I'm getting dodgy, so I will stop there. Big up Finn and Cat. Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much, guys. See you later.
In the moment. breathe.